So I've made a lot of nerdy videos about a lot of nerdy TV shows and movies like Star Wars and Marvel and Pokemon. I haven't made a Pokemon video yet, but I'm going to, I promise. But I don't think anyone here is really ready for the nerdy topic we're going to be discussing today. See, since I was a child, like maybe 6 or 7 years old, I've taken one show above all else as my favorite show, and that show is Doctor Who. Now, if you've never heard of Doctor Who or you have a faint idea of what it is, but you've never actually seen it, I recommend going and consulting a therapist because your parents didn't love you. Or, I mean, just like watching the show, like just go watch the show. It's on like any of the streaming services now. I'm pretty sure it's on HBO Max or whatever the the streaming service is called now. You know what streaming service I'm talking about. But before you do that, you should like watch the video and like leave a like and maybe subscribe because like most of you aren't subscribed. The people that watch the videos, like most of you guys aren't subscribed, and that's kind of lame. You should do that. That way I don't feel bad about myself anymore. That'd be cool. Thanks. So Doctor Who is one of, if not the longest running show on television, and you can trust me on that. You don't need to like consult any other outside database. Just trust me. Like trust me, bro. Like I am the #1 source on Doctor Who stuff. Trust me, bro. Trust me. But Doctor Who is a British show revolving around the character the Doctor, who's played by a bunch of men and also some women, much to the dismay of toxic men online. And the show's been going on for over the last like 60 years, just about. And the Doctor is a Time Lord from the planet Gallifrey, and that means nothing to any of you if you haven't watched the show before, but I promise that these are important details. See, because what that means is as a Time Lord, he can go anywhere in time and space that he wants to and just kind of meddle in whatever's happening. See, he's not really supposed to meddle in all these historical activities, but he'll go and meet like William Shakespeare and Agatha Christie and Queen Elizabeth and Vincent van Gogh, but then not be mentioned as like a historical figure in any textbooks or any like historical documents in his timeline. And I don't get how he can be in all of these points in time and then not be mentioned by any historical textbooks. You're not supposed to meddle in these as a Time Lord. Like, that's one of the rules, is like not messing with the space-time continuum. But then he just like goes in, meddles, and then goes, oh, psych, I'm out of here. Fuck you guys. I'm leaving in my little blue box. Oh, by the way, he travels in a little blue box. It's called the TARDIS. It stands for Time and Relative Dimension in Space. I don't even know what that fucking means. Like, it's not really like a complete like sentence thing. It's not like a full, like, how is that a description of a vehicle? And also it's a blue police box, which I didn't know existed because I'm an American and we don't have blue police boxes in America. We just have cell phones to call the police. Anyway, to the actual subject of this video, Doctor Who is changing. See, part of the Doctor's fancy little Time Lord powers, other than having 2 hearts, which is a thing that he has, is the ability to regenerate. And what that is when all of his cells die after he's mortally injured, and they just regenerate and come back to life, and he gets a new face. See, but instead of being this cool scientific thing in this science fiction show, you know, like watching all the cells regenerate or whatever, it just looks like he's catching on fire, and then he's just a new person. And you're probably saying to yourself, oh, regeneration is just a way for the show to keep running and replace actor after actor after actor. And you'd be right. I mean, the original premise of the show was only supposed to be a couple of years with good old William Hartnell as the first Doctor, but then when he decided he didn't want to do it anymore and the show was super successful, they just came up with regeneration as a way to replace him with a younger actor who wasn't even that much younger. I mean, if you want to know more about that, they made an entire special on BBC for the 50th anniversary about Doctor Who, and it's like an adventure in time and space or something. I'm sure you can find that on one of the other streaming services too. But like I said, the show is changing again. See, there have been a lot of really popular or well-known actors who have played the Doctor over the last 25 years. You got Christopher Eccleston, who you might know as the main villain in Thor: The Dark World, who was atrocious, and also the really bad villain in the really mid G.I. Joe movie. But he was a very good Doctor when the show came back in 2005 for one singular season. Matt Smith, who you might know from the House of the Dragon show, or from his great role in the more billion-dollar grossing movie Morbius, where he played the villain who was, you know, the guy who did this. And I want to say he played the Doctor for like 5 or 6 years. I want like somewhere in that time frame, I think. And more recently, Ncuti Gatwa has taken over the role of the Doctor as of like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and you probably know him the most as the guy who played Eric in Sex Education and one of the Kens in Barbie. But in between Christopher Eccleston and Matt Smith, we got David Tennant, who is widely regarded by fans as their favorite Doctor and one of the best Doctors, not only in the modern era, but probably the best Doctor of all time. So for the 60th anniversary, Jodie Whittaker's Doctor turned back into David Tennant, confusing and exciting a lot of fans. See, because now they're trying to figure out, after Ncuti Gatwa was announced as the next Doctor after Jodie Whittaker, where exactly David Tennant fits into this timeline of Doctors. Because it was also announced with Ncuti Gatwa becoming the Doctor that David Tennant would get a couple of specials of his own and then become Ncuti Gatwa. But why did he come back? And so the answer that we've gotten over the last couple weeks has been different. Also, spoilers for the Doctor Who 60th anniversary specials that have been airing on Disney Plus over the last couple weeks, obviously, if you haven't figured that out by now. But if you haven't seen them yet, I highly recommend them. They were fantastic. So when David Tennant's doctor is shot by Neil Patrick Harris's Toymaker, oh yeah, he's in this too. It was really, really cool, actually. He's shot by a fucking laser beam that literally took out satellites earlier in the episode. And he starts to do his little thing with regeneration where he glows and starts to like light on fire, but then he regenerates into himself again, which has happened in the past, but this time it was a little more confusing because he seemed confused about it too. Now I'd like to say that when he became himself again, I was really happy because when I was 9 years old watching David Tennant regenerate into Matt Smith for the first time, I was really, really heartbroken because he was my first doctor and I cried my eyes out and I was a little baby and I was really worried that I was going to be not ready to let go again and that I was going to cry again, and I almost did, but then I didn't. And so he asked his friends to pull him apart, and that's when he became both David Tennant and Ncuti Gatwa. But when his friends pull him apart and he becomes both David Tennant and Ncuti Gatwa, that's what's now called a bigeneration, which is definitely a made-up word because when I googled bigeneration on Google, the only things that came up were Doctor Who articles and Doctor Who videos of the bigeneration. Shit. But bigeneration, according to the Doctor himself, is a Time Lord myth where the Time Lord regenerates, but also becomes two copies of themselves. And in this case, it became David Tennant and Ncuti Gatwa. So this poses a lot of questions now because David Tennant's doctor is now living a normal life on Earth with his friends, with his bi-generated TARDIS, which is also something cool that can happen now. And Ncuti Gatwa goes off in his TARDIS to go have more Doctor Who adventures in space because we're getting a Christmas special and then we're getting a whole new season in 2024. So we have to have him go off into space. But like, will we see David Tennant's doctor again? There's never been two doctors living in the same universe at the same time. I mean, there have been like Doctor Who crossover episodes as like anniversary specials and for like nostalgia and for fan service, but like there's never been two doctors living in the same universe at the same time. This is literally the same exact person at the same age in their life. This isn't like one version of the doctor and another version of the doctor meeting for the first time. It's not creating a paradox and it's not a weird fan service thing. It's just straight up what is happening. Like, will we get a moment in the middle of the season where Ncuti just goes back to Earth and talks to David Tennant's doctor and, like, catches him up on everything and then just, like, reminisces about adventures? Like, is that something that's going to happen? Are we going to get that? Now, you're probably saying to yourself, Keith, you seem really passionate about this subject, and you always have a lot of opinions on things, right? Yeah, I do. That's like my whole shtick. I'm really annoying, I'm very opinionated, and I'm an asshole. However, in this situation, I actually love what Doctor Who is doing. See, the last 6 years of the show, I've really been holding out a lot of hope because Jodie Whittaker was really great as the character of the Doctor, but she was kind of dragged down by weak writing and really mediocre storytelling. But now Russell T Davies is back as showrunner, and Ncuti Gatwa is playing the Doctor with energy that David Tennant and Matt Smith originally brought to the role when they were younger and just starting out too. Which for me, as a long-standing fan of the show, is something that I'm really genuinely excited to see more of. Also, the opportunity to see David Tennant come back as a Doctor at any point in time is something that really, really brings me a lot of joy. But in all seriousness this time, I really don't have anything to complain about with this whole bi-generation plot point and what this means for the future of Doctor Who. So were you all caught up on Doctor Who? What did you think of the bi-generation with Ncuti Gatwa and David Tennant both existing as the Doctor at the same time now? Let me know in the comments and remember to leave a like and subscribe. Also, Merry Christmas, even though I despise the holiday. Thank you guys so much for everything you've done for me over the last 6 or 7 months on this channel. It's kind of humbling to go back and look and see how much progress we've made as a community, and it means a lot to me that you guys are still around and still watching the videos. So thanks so much for stopping by Keith's Knowledge Corner, and I'll see you next week. Just kidding, fuck you, see you next week.